All right, let's just do a couple tests here. Make sure everything is up and running. Alrighty, let me go ahead and get started here. Welcome to the 2025 February Intermediate Tournament Semifinals. We have Gruppler versus Anker for this one. A few hours ago, I covered the Cap 88 and ProfTech games, and so now we're going to go to this other matchup in the semifinals and see who moves on to join Cap 88 in the finals of this tournament. And let's see, the players are playing for some of these homemade capstones here. These were made on the 4-axis CNC of mine. And then these I turned on the wood lathe, even though they are soapstone capstones. And then the last set is going to be a pair of, let's see, I believe it's canary wood and purple heart turned capstones, the ones you see in the middle of this picture here. All right, and let me give the players the go ahead here, and we should be able to get the stones thrown here. All right, they can start when they're ready. This is going to be a game played on the 6x6 board size and has a Comey of 2, which is going to be 2 added to the flat count score of the black player, assuming that the game does not end in a road. So board fill or reserve depletion by either player will signal the end of the game, and then we count flats. So any flat stone on top of a stack on the board. And we'll wait for these guys to get their seek up, and then we'll see what they have in store for us. We had a couple exciting games earlier today for the other semifinals, and looking forward to these two kind of duking it out here. All right, we have a board created, so let's see what we have here. All right, and here we go. We have adjacent corners and a knight's opening. Even though this board is a little bit transposed, I mean, you might normally see it like this. We have the same opening going this direction. And black providing kind of an immediate barricade from white traveling down this direction. And white making the knight's brace here. So providing difficult terrain for black to move through with a vertical road while still leaving their options open for a horizontal as well as this vertical primus that they're kind of going to form here. Black cutting in at e2. I would expect white to fill in this e1 square, and they do. c6. Okay, so blocking a little bit of the travel for white going leftwards, westwards, towards the A column, which however you want to say it in this orientation. However, it may not slow white enough. So white can just continue with c5 here, keep marching as well as keeping their options open. But let's see, white goes with a capstone on c4, black immediately responding with a capstone in opposition here. And white builds vertically. Black with an early capture. I think if they had waited for white to build up a little more, this might have been a little more effective going this direction. White's just going to take this necessary square, this anchor point over here on f5. Going to take that away from black. Black can continue on with e4 to kind of keep up steam. And then I would think e3 or something like that by white. Nope, white takes f4. And black kind of cuts in with a ladder at f3. e3 is a good spot. White does have, or sorry, black does have tempo, does have momentum. So white will want to address that to attempt to come out ahead here. e2 can steal that spot from black, but they go with a d4 placement. And now we'll see if black makes the attack threat with e2. And they do. Okay, so white must capture to stop this threat. Uh, they have a good many options to do so. The most tempo relevant option is going to be this e3 plus. Or f4 minus, I guess, works as well. Black can respond by just taking that. They could also build, just filling in. This works for both this horizontal threat as well as the vertical. So now if white makes this attack threat, black captures with tempo. Okay, white making a hard cap to protect both directions. That has the benefit of getting this capstone out of opposition where it wasn't really participating in any of the active part of the board. It does cost a flat count move, so it is a negative FCD move. You're covering up your own flat. But sometimes that's what you have to do. If black allows that capstone to walk up to this d5 square, that could put quite a hurting on black's position here. And I think that this is a board state that requires a little bit of time from the players. So I think that Anker taking a minute or so here is going to be the the proper move. Okay, and they ignore. So we'll see how that pans out. Okay, white ignores as well, looking to form a double threat if they get d1. So that is a threat to throw this capstone stack covering e4, f4, or to just simply play d4 plus, 1d4 plus. Black can continue building here at c3, and then c3 right at some point would be a throw attack threat to cover f3 or even just e3. So that could be a potential thought line that black is going down right now. Capturing the f3 square is not a bad move as well. That is a attack threat, and it does defend at least somewhat. Okay, that is what they choose. And now as white, just stepping that capstone up one square would buy you a turn. You could also throw that capstone over to the edge. However, that might lose, if not immediately, then fairly soon. It does make a threat, so you come over, drop a flat on e4, put your capstone here on the edge, making this threat down at d1. However, then black just responds by throwing that back up this way, potentially in some sort of double maneuver or atypical stack throw where they drop one flat, one flat, one flat. Okay, white does choose 1d4 plus. This is attack threat coming down to d1. And now black can make that spread and cover, making their own attack threat at c3. And for this game, we have Gruppler with the white pieces and Anker with the black pieces. I don't think this is an undefendable threat, throwing this f3 stack over. It is quite troubling, though. I believe then you're looking at d2 right, possibly as your only defense. I'm not sure how that shakes out in the long run. You do have d4 over left, looks like as well. Ooh, okay. Yeah, I mean that's a free stack for white. but they don't take it. Going for the kill, looks like here. Not that this is a 10U state, but usually more flats, more better, as the saying goes. However, sometimes just nice to take a nice to take a free stack. Let's see what this does in chat. That's stock. Okay. All right, just trying some of those chat commands, trying to get those working. All right. Black moves down one with the capstone. White follows. And now we have the same move, but it no longer comes with tempo. So now white has a turn to think about things. Decide if they want to take that stack, if they want to put a wall on F3, if they want to make a threat with D1, or if they want to do that. So this builds the horizontal. So black needs to kind of think about how they want to get back in the game, get their groove back. Okay, not attack threat, but it could turn into one either with b3, b4, b5, e5 left, kind of multiple ways. And now we see that wall on f3, targeting that liability on e3, which shuts down a lot of what black was going for. Black is not dead in the water here. They can begin to pivot, possibly. b5 makes attack threat, forces the wall over, and then they continue, or they add a defender stone. That, unfortunately, I don't think is going to do it. Now white can just grab that stack. White can wait a turn first, and they can take b5 for themselves. But no, they make the threat. So d1, attack threat by moving the capstone stack down. Black can take here on e2 with e2 left. To stop that, they can take up here with attack threat either by c6 right or e5 left. And they take the attack threat that direction. We'll see if it's spotted, because this is tournament play. You do not have to call tack. So road threats can be and are missed. And it is missed. We'll see if it's missed by both players, because that also happens. Anker may be giving a little bit of time to ensure that that was not a misclick, because while calling tack is not customary or required for tournament play, sometimes waiting a minute to make sure your opponent did not do something they didn't intend to is customary. Okay, and black takes the road, and we have one game in favor of Anker. Let me see if the players are going to switch here. Or not switch, they're definitely going to switch. But let me see if they want to take a break in between. All right, for those who are just tuning in now, we have Gruppler versus Anker. This is the second of the two semifinal games in this match. I covered the other match earlier between Cap 88 and ProfTech. And they are playing for some custom capstones, soapstone, some turned wood, and some fourth axis CNC turned wood. There's the bracket from earlier. And let me just check in on the players here. Okay, looks like they are going to go straight into game two. So let me keep an eye out for that. And it's already up, and we should be going. Okay, opposite corners this time. Let's see if we see a knight. Nope, we see a center squabble. So near center here, and then we'll see how it builds from this. Okay, we have a black knight. He's going to bite your legs off. Okay, and I cap at d2. So white has some options to pivot here. C4 being one of the more intuitive ones, I feel. A cap at c2 seems a little bit premature. Seems like you might get locked out of the action. So maybe better to build a few turns first. Okay, looks like we have a little bit of a connection issue there for one of the players. Players have switched colors, so now we have Anker in the white and Gruppler in the black. So what did I miss here? All right, so we had a C3 stone placement, followed by C2, and then so we have a kind of a citadel in the middle with a capstone. Black does have momentum here. The white's going to have to do something to slow that down. They do have this C3 stone which can come down onto that road, so if they build here at B4, after this cut down here, they should keep momentum after that. Wonder if we'll see another white hard capstone in this one. If black were to build one more turn down this way, white moving down here, that would be, in a way, a little bit poetic. Okay, C1. So with this slow citadel in the middle, that citadel is a very strong shape, but it does take resources to build. I'm a little worried that another slow move like C1 is just going to give too much momentum to black. So I could see E2 incoming here. A2 has some more vertical or kind of gymnast options going both directions. Okay, and black decides to cut off white's building here. This type of formation can usually be met with just a ladder stone here. So B5, and that is what we see. And now black can kind of regroup, kind of decide if they want to push that more. Pushing it from this state, C5 would be a bad idea. A5 is a better way to cut through that. Okay, but we do see C5, so we'll see where that goes with everybody. My hesitation with C5 is that it can just get kind of stranded out here. I don't know that we needed to strand it that early. Can wait till another turn, but maybe it's wise to keep these threats in one direction. Black steals the A4 square, which is a necessary holding for this kind of straight line road going across the 4. And then now white pivoting to the vertical. And let's see how Gruppler responds to this. A2 is still looking like a pretty juicy spot since it aids both directions. A3 stone does something similar. You could always go ahead and take E2. Nope. So what you'll see sometimes is that your eyes and your mind will kind of follow the action. So if white is building up here, that makes you want to, as black, play up there as well. When in reality, if you take like a step back or a mental step back from the board, just see, is it a good idea to follow the action? Just because as humans we are deeply ingrained to follow movement, whether that be a video representation of or a digital representation of stones on a board or a bird in the bush. Just how our brains work, and sometimes you need to fight that a little bit. Okay, black building a little bit here. Let's backtrack just a smidge here. So we saw a wall drop on e4, aiming to kind of shore up this area here. This wall is a knight noble, so in a knight formation with another noble, in this case the capstone. This allows that capstone to come up here defensively and kind of block off this direction. It also will allow this c5 stone to step right and kind of shut down a road coming this direction. I think maybe pushing your momentum might have worked here, or it might be past that point where that would be effective. Okay, so wall was dropped. Saw white building up here on c6, possibly intending some sort of top line vertical in the future, or horizontal in the future, my bad. And black adding a stone to their vertical road, and white adding a little defender here. So we should see attack threat in the next turn or two. Maybe now that the action is drawn back here. Nope. I was going to say, maybe now that the action is drawn back here, maybe we'll see that A2 placement. Okay, not attack threat yet, but black is building this strong vertical here. A3 plus is a response to it with tack. Can also just place down here, although most likely that will just invite the wall, either the wall to move, which can be crushed, or more likely maybe a c5 right, something along those lines. White can place e3, just kind of building a little more. E6 up here. None of these are terrible moves. Just trying to think of what would be most beneficial for white in this situation. Okay, so they go with e6. So we have attack threat on the board. We will see if it is spotted. Players still with a healthy amount of time, so they could take their time on this one and think about things. We're over 10 minutes for both players. Okay, wall moves over to cut that threat. My brain immediately says smash. I don't know if that's the right move, but it seems that bringing that right close up in my face makes it very smashable. That smash does come with tack, so it is not immediately wallable. You cannot wall c4 right after that because of 2b4 minus, making this road here. White may be deciding if it's worth it to smash it or if it is more prudent just to play a flat stone somewhere. I don't quite see any Tenue setups or Tenue setups on the board. So white could just build e3, works on this horizontal as well as branching out to this one. Nope, they go with the crush. Okay, so we have attack threat here. Threatening 2b4 minus. And if black captures to remove that, we have the throw here, which can reclaim that stack for white. Can be stopped temporarily by d2 plus, although that is only a temporary stop. Filling in at c4 next turn renews that threat. And then black has kind of shuffled their stones off of this horizontal for that defense. So this is one of those where they want to take a minute to think about this. Not quite sure what the right move is in this situation. It's probably just to make that a4 right, let it get captured, and then try to shore up your defenses there. Okay, goes for the typical throw there. There was an atypical option that was attack threat if you leave a white stone here, black here, white there. Not sure how that plays out, but it was an option. Now, like I said, let that happen and then try to shore up your defenses afterward. Still not a great feeling, but it was better than the other options, I believe. I'd have to pull it out into PTN Ninja, which actually Gruppler is the creator of. So shout out to that piece of software. I'm a huge fan. You've if you've seen any of my books, then all the diagrams that are made in there came from his software. Their software. Not sure which pronouns everybody prefers. Probably should have looked at that. Okay, so we have this wall at d4. Now white needs to decide how they want to keep pushing because they do want to keep pushing. It's you've got the guy on the ropes. You definitely want to keep him there. I'm not sure that was the right push. So I mean that is a attack threat. However, placing at a4 I think would have been a good one to do. Now you've given black something to target. Black can do b5 right, and even if white wins this stack war, which they certainly could, then you're inviting black to drop another wall into the position and kind of mess up your nice road building attempts. I think this here is one of those states where immediately recapturing is kind of the gut move, but sometimes you can just ignore those threats or those capture wars. So I think another wall drop by black would be fine in this situation. So determining where to drop that wall, you want to look at the board and see where you want that stone or that stack to be kind of shepherded. So do you want that stack running down this way or perhaps up to c6, or do you want it running over here to b5 a5? Okay. Black chooses to either herd the stack or have white ignore it. Either I think that was the right call for this. If you let that run to b5 a5, it runs that way with attack threat, and not sure how that plays out, but not in a fun way. I don't think. Not in a fun way for black. Let's clarify. White is not pinned here from the crush. They can smash b5, making a attack threat. I don't know what it gains them to do that. They can even smash d4 with attack threat by leaving 2 here, crushing here. Then you have that same threat that we had a few turns ago. Um, White can make attack threat by moving this cap stack down onto b3. Makes attack threat here at c4, and then they can build e3 the following turn. Have to see which one they choose, or surprise me with another option. They could do 3b4 over to the right. That would be attack threat here, and then if the wall takes, a crush or another attack threat. So lots of options. Sometimes that's the problem. Too many options. Anker is coming up on 5 minutes on the clock, which is about half of what Gruppler has. So if this kind of thrust is stopped, then we may run into some time issues on down the line. Let's look at flat score while we're at a little bit of a break here. So we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 for white, 2, 4, 6 plus 2 for the Comey, so 8, 9 to 8. White does have currently all the FCD options, so they can cover up two of black stones here and reveal one of their own. That's a +3 move. And they have this stack here, which can't do a whole lot at the moment, but it could move into the line of sight of some other stacks or otherwise, but we kind of write that one off unless black gets hold of it, and then they have a +4 move coming down this direction. Okay, Anker's time is starting to worry me here. Okay, um, D5 plus does reduce some of the FCD potential of capturing the stack. However, I don't know if you gain anything else from that. So yes, I believe that was the right move by black. Take that back. Sorry, capture that stack, not take that move back. I feel like this can be one of the most difficult states for beginner and intermediate players right here. Not this particular board state, but when the board gets like this. So you've done your kind of opening salvo, and now you have to decide where this is going in the end game. And that can make your decision making pretty tough. All right, white can make attack threat this turn by moving the cap stack up to row 6. So picking up all, what do we have, 5 there? Dropping 1, leaving 4 here. That can be defended with the wall, but not the full stack of the wall. So I don't think it's 10U up here. You can also do C6 right, and then when the cap follows it, then it doesn't work out well for him. White cap just gets stuck over here. Okay, so white decides to build, and they've got some kind of contiguous stones going here, so that was a good thought. Okay. That was a very quick capture there, that A3 right. So we had the E3 placement and then a pretty immediate A3 right. Okay, so black needs to get something going here. And I believe they have the opportunity to now. They'll want to watch out next turn for A3 as attack threat, crushing this D4 wall and making this road. It's not an undefendable threat, but it is a bit of a sneaky one. Okay, we see A2. and maybe he'll take a minute on this state and I can do some flat scoring here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 2, 4, 7, 9, 10 to 9. Black does have more option now. Like I said, they had acquired this stack here, so they have some FCD potential around this direction. Okay, so we do see that sneaky threat. We will see if it is spotted. A few different options. Black goes with the cap cut, which is perfectly reasonable. Other options would have been throwing this wall stack down this direction. Throwing it this direction is kind of gets in your own way a little bit. But how does the white respond? White responds with kind of an inrush, a flat infill here on D2. Now as black, I'm thinking it's got to be my chance, right? I gotta I gotta take some tempo. I gotta take the momentum back. Okay, white slowing that down a little bit. E2 seems like a valid response to this. And that's what we see. So again, black with the slight tempo advantage here. And white trying to take that back. Feel like some shenanigans with that wall stack might be incoming. Black can also just infill on D2. Okay, they walk their capstone up. So that's going to slow white down a good bit. White has a sneaky throw threat next turn, but black sees that and fills in on A5. Anchor down to under a minute here. Looking at 48 seconds on the clock. There is an increment, so do have a little bit of cushion there, but it's not much. And really, when you're getting into these complicated board states, that little bit of an increment just evaporates. We have a B1 placement. I would expect just the capstone to walk up onto that B3 stack. No. Okay, we have a hard cap. Cap 10U? Not quite. So we have the 2d6 left. I'm not sure if that stops it completely. It does stop it for this turn. Oop, nope. That was a overthrow. Maybe possibly a misclick. We'll see. Am I miscounting here? One, two, three, four, five, six. One, two, three, four friendlies can reach here. Okay, so yeah, that's a road. But do the players see it? Yep. Okay. All right, so that's gonna be game two. We have a split game. So stick around for just a minute. We're gonna see if they're going to do their blitz tiebreakers now or later. All right, looks like they are going to go ahead with their tiebreakers now. So we're going to see some blitz games. All right, let me get back to the stream here. I will double check that they are good. So we should be getting those games going here. So same as before, two Comey. So two added to black's flat count score at the end of the game if it does not end by a road. And the time has been shrunk down to 3 minutes with a 5 second increment. Okay, opposite corner opening, and then adding in this other kind of barricade corner. Like white is going for kind of a separated edge crawl up top, while black does the reverse knight or the black knight. Black's going to have to add some defenders up here soon, or it will be some emergency noble deployment up top. Black goes with capstone. So, I mean, that is a decisive way to shut that down. However, now your capstone is there. So that is a pro and con. Okay, we see some development down here. Black was winning the tempo race for this side. They're still winning it, but now white has the capstone added into the mix. Black still building for that horizontal here. White can step down and cut that off and increase their tempo going in the vertical direction. Kind of what I would expect to see. F4, maybe E4 would have been a little bit closer to things. Attack threat on the board. Seems like if you were pre-planning this as white, which it appeared that they were, you would step that capstone over, and they do. Lugopolis is saying, "Yay, Blitz!" Yeah, he's not commenting on it. I have a hard time following Blitz. Just a old slow mind here. All right, white building up there vertical. Should see a back threat next turn, I would imagine. Unless black tries to cut it off early by something like F3 minus. Going with a wall, white should just be able to keep building here. Because now you just kind of give the run around. Oh no. We'll see if the players see it. That is blitz. That is what happens in blitz. Okay, missed it. So yeah, both players missed the road there. Okay, we see a threat on the board. F1 left renews a threat and seems pretty intuitive. E2 right is also a strong option. It doesn't renew the threat, but it buys white a turn to think about their life and what they want to do with it. Okay, we see F1 plus. Let's see, black should probably renew F1 or shift focus and go something like B3 and just start threatening the other undefended side of the board. Black goes with a wall to shut things down. And white throws, not attack threat, not this turn. So now, as black, you need to, well, you don't need to do anything. Black chooses a wall, a defensive option here. White making the attack threat not be stopped by that wall that was just placed. So we have another wall. Now we can fill in at E1 and then see F5 left possibly, or maybe throwing this wall down to d4. Both players still okay on time. A minute 50 for each player. So black needs to buy themselves a turn so that they can capture that d2 stack. Or make a threat here at b3, b4. Yep, they do find it. f5 left. That will buy them the time that they need. Possibly. We do have c5 as a little bit of a thorn in the side, and then you would have to throw that wall down. Okay, white does not uh, see it or go for it or have time to calculate because it splits. Now black can capture that. White needs to renew the threat here. Keep the ball in their court. So probably e4. Okay, anchor down under a minute. Chooses not to respond to the threat, or not to make the threat, my bad. And instead pivots. This could be defensive for this incoming black threat here. Could be to target this stack. However, you've kind of let it out of your sight just a little bit, and now black can bait you down to this area. You can see a wall is a quick stop to this. Or just a flat, or throwing the capstone up. White chooses a wall. Black could have built around in this direction for another threat. Chooses a3. Now we could see the smashing of this wall, or perhaps some building. E4 still looks inviting. Okay, goes with the spreading out of that stack, which, yeah, gets immediately gobbled up. White can still crush here. Not a whole lot of benefit to at the moment. Puts a little bit of a kind of an edge pinch here. That way, if black were to play a4, then this a2 plus shuts that down. Then black would have to pivot at c4. They choose the edge pinch the other direction, which is fine. Anchor down to 19 seconds on the clock. Looks like we do have some sort of crush setup attempt going on here. I would expect black to play c3 next. Yep, they do. Wall cuts. Just immediately fill in with b2. Keep that pressure on your opponent. And that's not going to stop it. Do they see it? And buzzer is about to go off. They do not. Okay. So now maybe white realize that, they move out of the way. Black not renewing a threat yet, but on their way. C4. No, it goes with F3. Uh, White still not at threat level yet. Under 15 seconds for Gruppler. White fills in. Yep, there it is. So let's see if this one's spotted. This is a horizontal and a vertical. Capstone up stops both. Capturing D4 both. That does not do it. See if we get this one. Yep. And that is Blitz. got a little hairy there. All right, so first Blitz game goes to Gruppler. And we will wait for the board to populate for the second. I'll check in on the players real quick. All right, just checking with them to see if they're going to take a break in between. All right, and it looks like they are going to jump right into it. So let's get over to that board and take a look. The players have reverse colors, so we have Gruppler in the white now and Anker in black. Okay, we have an adjacent knight. Black going for some interfering stones over here on A5. White can probably build around that. A4. And then black's going to need to try and interrupt this. Looks like white going for some bidirectionality here. They will lose the pack threat race if black just goes for it, but I think they will come out ahead in overall momentum after this is shut down. Here it can just be, yep, an infill. Yep, that could have been a flat or a cap there. Now, probably just take the B5 stone. Black has to take one of these. B5, probably the better of the targetable stones there. It could, because if they take B6, then you kind of got inner protected stacks here. You can recapture and keep your threat strong, and then you're just gonna run your opponent all over the place down here. Okay, C1 is just kind of a barricade blockade here, but it white probably could have just pushed tempo there. Pushed with a D1 stone, D2. Just keep running, keep your opponent on the ropes. Okay. So is the wall going to come up? If so, I would expect a near immediate crush of that wall. I guess you could throw that stack over this direction. I don't think it's continue yet though. Okay, so black has to stop this. These are all interprotected up here. There's no available space, so it's not like you can put a capstone up here and get it anywhere in enough time. You could start a fight, capture that B6 stone or something to free up a space to then put a capstone in. And it looks like that might be what they're doing. But now you can just recapture that with the B4 capstone, like that. And now you have no unprotected liabilities. You have a very strong vertical going on. Black is 3 moves away from attack threat over here, and you are 1 move away from basically what looks like continue over here. I don't think that'll stop it. Uh, Throwing down to here would have been continue that turn. I believe. I'd have to pull it out to make sure, but throwing down to here, then you can wall here or whatever you want. Ladder on D1, that moves up, this moves over, and you have continue. Oh, okay. So we have missed threat, and it looks like Gruppler is going to take both of the Blitz tiebreak games, and he will be moving on to the finals. They will be moving on to the finals. She will be moving on to the finals. I don't know. I need to find out. Somebody with the handle of Gruppler will be moving on to the finals. All right, if you made it this far, thank you guys for sticking around, and I'll see you at the February intermediate finals. Hopefully, I'll be able to stream those live. If not, what I'll do is I'll go through and do kind of a post analysis of the game. All right, thank you guys.